The bases dropped on a Friday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, November 9th, getting ready for Atlanta and New York City FC on Sunday. We'll see if it can live up to the madness from last night in Cascadia. Those of you in our listening footprint who stayed up late to watch it, if you're a little tired this morning, it's understandable. Grab an extra cup of coffee, an extra Red Bull or Monster Energy drink, or Mountain Dew or whatever it is that you drink, and try to get into your day. Soccer down here. I think we're all a little tired from last night's madness in Seattle. The car show did not detract from a wild match in Seattle. One of the best playoff matches in Major League Soccer history. I don't think there's any argument about that. I'm Jason Longshore. John Nelson, Jarrett Smith are here as well. And for those of you who did not stay up and watch the match last night, here are your highlights from FS1 with John Strong and Stuart Holden.
New back for Rodriguez, trying to give him the space to get a cross in. Here it comes into the back post. Accidental the whole way. Lost the ball. Rui Diaz on the scene. Wide it goes for Villafania. Villafania clipping it in. Leerdam waiting for it. Kim Ki-hee only partially clear. Espria back for Blanco. Blanco got it away and scores! Gustav Svensson is Rodriguez all the way to the far side. Powell coming to meet him. Rodriguez now will lift in the cross into the bodies. Ridgewell a header. Blanco back into the middle. Rui Diaz! Oh, what a goal to force extra time!
Ridgewell, a similar clearance to Kim Ki-hee. They can't get rid of it, but oh my! What a strike, Rui Diaz, to take that one out of the air. Blanco puts it back in the danger area. Nothing Attinella can do. This is the view from behind. Just the laces through, he gets his hip up over the top of it.
Advantage being played as Valeri picks it up. Valeri clipping it in. Espria free, who scores? Darwin Espria, magic in the postseason. So here comes Ladero now on the throw. Takes a couple different bounces. Another shout for handball. This one is given. Penalty for Seattle. This is to tie the series back up. And he does. Ladero getting the space. Some tired legs out there now. As he hooks it, a dangerous cross. Rui Diaz. It's going to bounce in. They're shouting for handball. The flag has come up on the near side. So the call on the field is a handball that rules out the goal.
Rui Diaz's left hand here.
And he's been shown a yellow card. Raul Rui Diaz trying to keep it all square after 2 rounds. But it's off the post.
They didn't look confident there, Will Bruin. Just a short run up.
Needing really to make this to keep Seattle within touching distance. But it's saved. Since returning against Seattle in August, can now win the shootout against the Sounders, but Stephen Fry comes up big to keep her alive. And Wallapuana needs to make this kick. And he does. Stephen Fry trying to pull off another save to keep Seattle alive. No! Portland wins. Espria the hero. And the Portland Timbers have won the shootout in Seattle.
Unbelievable night in Seattle for Portland. Unbelievable night for the league, to be honest. John Strong, Stuart Holden. Great call capturing the energy of that one. I'm sure John probably has not fallen asleep yet. It was one of those kinds of nights. Let's hear from Diego Valeri, Giovanni Savarese, and Jeff Attinella after the match.
I don't know. I'm just happy about the result. We make another West Conference final. That's not easy, and in Seattle's home. So very happy about our team. We show personality, and this is for our supporters.
One of the most up and down matches that I can ever remember. What was it like to go on that roller coaster over that 120 minutes?
It was crazy. It was crazy because They get exposed sometimes. We scored 2 goals. I don't think it was a PK, even if it was a handball. And it was a roller coaster game. But we knew about that. I mean, at some point, these playoff games are like that.
And the second time in your career in Portland that you have been part of a team that eliminated Seattle. How does this compare to 2013?
It's always special, of course. It's always special because we know that our supporters enjoy it in a different way. So for us, it's important. But most important is to make another final in our conference and keep fighting for another star.
And it was a huge night for Dairon Asprilla. Goal, assist, the penalty kick winner. What was it like to see somebody break through on a night like this?
We are happy, very, very happy about him. He deserved this. He got some bad moments during the year, and he showed how much quality he has.
And how are the legs feeling right now?
I don't feel anything, but I had just happiness in my body.
You kept a lot of faith in Dairon Asprilla this year, and tonight he really delivered. What was it like to see him come up with a goal, an assist, and of course the clinching penalty kick?
I think at the end, if you work hard, if you stick, and you believe always, and you stay there, soccer's going to reward you. And he's been working very hard, and today he was able to be very important for the team.
Yeah, I mean that's the life of a goalkeeper. You got to be able to shake off when you make mistakes, and because the next one's coming. You always got to be worrying about the next one because you can't really control what you did in the past. And I still feel like I made a good play on the cross. I just happened to drop it, but at the end of the day, I'm thankful for Seba's goal. I think I'm going to go buy a Sebastian Blanco jersey.
Man, Atzenella saying he's going to go buy a Sebastian Blanco jersey. If you did not see Sebastian Blanco's response last night, he had a wild match. I think everybody did. And his header attempted clearance fell to Raul Ruidiaz, and Ruidiaz volleys it almost through the back of the net. A fan tweeted after that and said, if we lost the game today, Blanco is the one who to blame. And Blanco responded afterwards, and now, ? I have big balls after mistakes. Celebrate. Thanks. I love it. And, Portland had big balls last night. That's the playoffs. That's what happens in these types of moments. Wild match. We can get into all kinds of aspects of it, and we will for a little while here before we start talking Atlanta and NYC. One, this is the kind of roller coaster that happens in the postseason. Last year, I think Atlanta had a condensed version of it in a knockout round game, scoreless, so you didn't get the wild goals back and forth. This on Sunday, after the first leg, after some of the things that have been said, some of the things that happened at Yankee Stadium, this is the type of atmosphere that will happen at some point in the postseason. Maybe not this year, maybe not Sunday, but this is the type of just insanity that can happen where you have one side that can't feel anything, as Diego Valeri said, except for happiness through his body, and Seattle, heartbroken, crushed. We talked about it yesterday with Felipe Cardenas about the Boca River Copa Libertadores final, guys, and we talked about how you're not the same after losing something like that. And we were talking about it from Boca and River, but for Seattle, this is a back-breaking kind of loss. This is a Sounders club that has been to back-to-back MLS Cups. This year looked the least likely, but they did their patented zombie Sounders, rise from the dead, Undertaker sitting up moment, and got all the way to the number 2 seed. And then this happens. The injuries hurt them, obviously. Chad Marshall, Cristian Roldan not being able to go last night really had an impact on them, but they took it to penalties. They couldn't find the win. What is next for Seattle? Is this the end of the line for this group of Sounders, or do you keep the band together for another year? Jarrett, there's a ton of questions coming out of this, but that's the one for me looking ahead is, does Seattle try to come back with Chad Marshall, Roman Torres, Kim Keehee as your center backs, and it really appears Kim Keehee replaced Roman Torres as the year went on. Osvaldo Alonso, another year older. You got it right with Rui Diaz. You'll have Jordan Morris coming back. Roldan is a guy for the long term. But is this a Sounders team that needs a little bit of a makeover?
I think they're going to have to do something. I mean, they've got to get younger in different respects. Ivy also agrees.
Ivy really agrees. I like it.
Yeah. They've got to make changes because I think it's one of those things where you've got to stay ahead of it. You can't. You'd rather make these moves a year early than a year too late. Because you do it a year too late, Zombie Sounders ain't going to happen. You're just going to have a season where, we had a slow first half and we didn't rebound. No, what do? We ended up with a wooden spoon.
Yeah, and that's the risk. That's the risk you run. Sometimes you can't make that wild comeback in the second half of the season. I think Seattle has to make some changes at a minimum, and some fairly big ones, and they're going to have to make some decisions about players who have been a big part of this run for them. On the Portland side, I thought Portland would get through here. I didn't expect them to get through in this way. What's their ceiling in 2018? John, is this a Portland team that could end up in MLS Cup?
I'm thinking if they're going up against Sporting, the answer is no. Because of Sporting's defense, which was something akin to MLS's Amazing Grace, once was lost, now is found. I just think that Sporting's defense would be more stout against a Portland offense. That it can be electric in situations, and sometimes you sit there and you're asking, "Okay, we're here. Where did you go?" So if it ends up flipping and it's not Sporting, I'll say yes. But if it's Sporting, I'll say no.
I think they can. I've always had this idea that Portland has the mentality to get there. I didn't know, and I still don't know, if they have the talent against the Sporting Kansas City. I think Sporting is the better team. But Giovanni Savarese has done an amazing job with this group. It's so difficult when you come in as a manager in this situation. It's different than if you come in, if you're Marc Dos Santos or you're Matias Almeida, and you have a bad team that you get to start over from scratch. There's really nothing to worry about in that regard. It's just, let's get the players we want to get and let's go. In this case, you have a team that's been pretty good, a team that won a title not that long ago. You don't want to completely remake everything. But you have to make the team in your image and your style and what you want them to be. And that's a process. And we watched Giovanni Savarese go through a few different iterations of it. Liam Ridgewell, who ended up playing a big role last night and down the stretch, he wasn't making 18s early in the year. He was being left at home when the team went on the road. You had a bad start to the season. You had a lot of road games early as Providence Park was being worked on. You have a great run in the middle of the year, kind of lose that a little bit. You make the hard decision to move on from Fernando Adi. Samuel Armenteros then gets hurt. You have to turn to Jeremy Ebobisse, young player who starts to grow into the role. You figure out that your team is based on Diego Valeri, Diego Chara, Sebastian Blanco. And those are your three key guys, and you have to put them in positions to be successful. Blanco, yes, the header across was bad. It's also, you're in a tough spot there as you don't have a lot of options because you're not completely getting it clear. If he could have headed it out to the touchline, would have been a much better play. Header falls right to Raul Rui Diaz, who blasts it home. Blanco also had an amazing goal before that. So Blanco is such a wild card for this team in a different way than Valeri is. Valeri, I think, is growing into his age, his body, and slowing down a bit, but maybe finding ways to be even more influential. I mean, some of his passes are just ridiculous. And then for me, underrated man of the match last night was Diego Chara. The dude was throwing himself into every tackle and the one late that Portland ended up getting a goal on, the whole play started with a 50-50 ball at midfield that Diego Chara ran 150 miles an hour straight at, with Will Bruin charging down. Will Bruin is about 6-7 inches taller and probably has got him by about 50 pounds. Chara made Bruin back out of the challenge. Chara wins the tackle, and then Portland goes down and scores. Unbelievable effort. And Dairon Asprilla as well coming off the bench. That was another big part of last night. But this team will go as far as Chara, Valeri, and Blanco can take them this season. And as Blanco said, they have big balls. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to be afraid of any moment that could be in front of them. That comes from their manager. Giovanni Savaresi's a tough guy. He's been through a lot. He will not be awed by anybody. He's not going to be intimidated by anybody. Savaresi and Peter Vermes in a Western Conference final be a lot of fun. The comments back and forth from those two will be a lot of fun. Former teammates with the 1996 Metro Stars. That'll be a great series for the league if Sporting Kansas City gets through RSL. We're going to take a break. We'll get into some of your questions and comments about last night, and there's quite a few. I want to talk about the refereeing from last night. Jair Marufo was in the middle. And we'll start to get into Atlanta and NYC and some of the comments out of the Big Apple ahead of their trip down to Atlanta for the match on Sunday. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Lots of takes about last night's Portland win over the Seattle Sounders in penalties. Just an absolute wild match. First half was kind of cagey. You know, what you would expect in this situation. Felt like an appetizer. Second half was every main course that the restaurant had, plus amazing desserts. And, yes, it was wild. It was... I'm trying to think of games that were better. The San Jose LA Galaxy game from 2003 was wild. The 2004 Eastern Conference Final, which was just a one game between DC and New England, was a great one that went to penalties as well. The first MLS Cup with DC coming back to win in a golden goal extra time situation in a monsoon at Foxborough. That was a wild one. The Toronto-Montreal series a couple of years ago. That had just a wild back and forth in it. But this was special, and it'll go down as one of the greatest matches in league history for sure. Rachel Affleck chimes in, yeah, Chara did a great job of tactical fouls and not getting cards. He did. I mean, yeah, tactical fouls, yeah, that's part of the game. That's something that's part of the game, and I think sometimes people get bent out of shape about it. Look, it's going to happen. Every team does it. Every smart team does it anyway, because you don't want to get beaten. And if you can keep doing it and not get a card, yeah, you're going to keep doing it. You're absolutely going to keep doing it. A couple different aspects of that. Jim Lepp and Brandon B. both chime in. Jim Lepp says, you're spot on about Chara. Now, I love me some Remedi, but couldn't stop myself thinking, what if Atlanta slipped into Portland during the offseason and grabbed themselves another important part of their midfield? I think Remedi is actually a pretty similar type of player to Chara, and that will be that type of player for Atlanta going forward. Brandon chimes in about the refereeing, and I wanted to get into this with you guys as well. Marufo last night reminded Brandon of Geiger in England-Colombia. Fair to both sides, did everything he could to keep it 11v11, classic match. I thought Marufo was outstanding last night. I thought it was one of the best referee performances in MLS that I've seen. And that's why, honestly, I prefer Marufo to Geiger. I know Geiger gets more high-profile assignments. I think Marufo is the guy who manages the game better. Similar last night, though, I agree, to England-Colombia, because this thing could have kicked off a million different directions. Marufo let it breathe. He let the players play. He also reined it in when it needed to be reined in, and he didn't have to do that by just throwing cards. Cards, in my preferred style of refereeing, cards are a last resort, not something you use to control the match. You can control the match if you're a top referee through conversation, through your body language, through the way you carry yourself on the field, the way you handle situations. I thought Marufo did that last night. There were multiple times that there was lots of anger about different things. He did give a yellow to Valeri for dissent. Valeri went completely over the top with dissent. I think you had two handballs in that situation. The first one didn't get called. I thought the first one was more of the handball, and I was a little surprised VAR didn't argue that more. The header that went off of, I believe it was Olam's right hand and was not called. Then immediately after it, you get a shot that's blocked with an arm, penalty called. The second one, it's a judgment call. It's a tough judgment call in that moment. I completely understand the call. I just think the first one was a little more clear. That's all. But, John, what did you think about Marufo last night and the way he managed that match?
Stunned silence.
He's completely wiped out. Marufo was that good. Jarrett, what did you think?
Yeah. That was good. I mean, zero complaints about what went down. I mean, yeah, it was funny because as the first handball happened, I was thought, okay, for them to call a handball in this situation, he's going to have to go full Suarez in South Africa and just spike the ball out of the net. Like, reach up and grab it. And then as I hit send, the other one happens. Like, oh, never mind, here we are.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens sometimes.
Exactly.
John, what do you think about Marufo?
No. Yeah, I was completely down with it the whole time. It's, when you have a match that can be as heated as this one normally is, and you add all of the subplot of, okay, this one's going to be deciding everything. There are ways to do it. And I've always thought that, to your point, cards should be a last resort. And they have more of an opportunity to stop any kind of momentum that a game can create with its own internal flow. And if you let a game breathe, but treat it with, equal amounts of respect, then I think you're going to get what we saw with Marufo last night. I think that if you can take a game, understanding its context going in, and not let it get out of control, but use conversation as a way to kind of temper things and let things cool off a little bit, which is relative when it comes to Cascadia. But I think that there are ways to do things without cards, and I think that Marufo showed that last night, and I'd like to think and I'd like to hope that others who will be in the middle of it all can sit there and take this as an example of how to do things in situations that are both important and heated.
It takes leadership pointing that out. It takes, a call, an email, a discussion, a session in the off season with Howard Webb, with the leaders of the Professional Referees Organization, sitting referees down and saying, this is what we want. This is how we want it. We want a game that has all the passion, all the fire, all of that in it, but not tainted because of cards and controlled. Because this match never felt like it was tipping out of control from a conduct perspective. And that's credit to Marufo. Credit to the teams as well for performing in that type of environment and not pushing it, playing the match. Because sometimes you see it. I mean, I always think to that Portugal-Netherlands game that, the referee was blasted for throwing so many cards, but you get to a point there that there's nothing you can do. I mean, the game is in the players' hands. And this one, both teams wanted to win in the worst way, put everything into it, and Marufo let that decide the match. I thought it was a great referee performance, and hopefully, this is something we see more of. What else are the people saying on the Twitters, John?
Well, we got a lot of folks saying stuff on the Twitters. I was trying to track down the Olam handball.
It doesn't matter. We don't need to know who did it. It didn't get called anyway.
Okay. Michael Ruiz says the wildest game he's ever seen outside of Liverpool AC Milan Champions League back in 2005 was last night.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those types of games with all the back and forth and the wild swings. You didn't have one team jumping out to a huge lead like you had in that one and like you had in that San Jose LA Galaxy game. But this one felt a little more back and forth, but all the intensity, all the fire in it.
Nathan Pugh says the match last night had everything. Shocka-strophic keeping, good finishing, poor defending, blank housery, sh::housery, since we can't say that word on the show, quote-unquote handballs and pins. Here's to hoping Sunday's a comfortable 2-0 win.
I'd say a healthy minimum of blank housery. I mean, it's there. That's part of the game, but it wasn't over the top. Trying to think. I mean, probably one of the biggest ones was Blanco battling with, was it Leerdam on the touchline? Blanco's trying to shield him out. Blanco goes down. Looks like he gets kind of sort of clipped and rolling around, and players all yelling back and forth, and it was over in 30 seconds. And again, that is credit to Marufo. Marufo saw it. He was on top of it. He knew what was going on. He talked to Blanco. He said, all right, you made your point. Let's play. And they did. So Marufo managed that situation well. There wasn't a ton else of it. Bad defending, it wasn't that bad, to be honest. I mean, I'm trying to think of just absolute egregious defensive mistakes in this. There wasn't a ton.
Well, but let me ask. I was going to say, let me ask you this: is when people sit there and might think that the defending is one way, it's because of the offense being what it is, as opposed to the defending being poor. It's because of how wide open things were and how going for it the two sides were as starting in the second half.
I can't speak for people, but I mean, you can also look at the score and think it's bad defending. You can look at a score and think it's good defending when it's really just a bad game all the way around. So this one, I didn't think the defending was too bad, and I thought Seattle dealt with the absence of Chad Marshall about as well as you could possibly expect. Torres came back in and did his job. You threw him up top when you had to find a goal, something that he has been involved in before and he's done before. You get that goal, you send it to extra time, you have to put him back in the back line. I thought Seattle outperformed what I expected with Marshall and Roldan out. They carried it as far as you could without those two key figures. Alonso was great, and he had more legs at the end than I thought he would. The second half of extra time, you could see, especially from the midfield players, the legs were going. Rachel Affleck said, so impressed with Rui Diaz late in the game, tracking all the way back to his 18, denying a scoring opportunity. You had to get those types of moments because the guys in the middle who were back and forth all day were feeling it. I mean, Chara looked like he was feeling it late. Alonso was. Others were just running on empty. Valeri didn't have that explosive first step. Blanco was running out of gas. You had to get those moments from either defenders who hadn't run all day and had some legs, substitutes who came on and had some fresh legs, and forwards like Rui Diaz. Rui Diaz is a great signing for Seattle. It was the perfect signing they needed. And if they get the right pieces around him next year, Seattle can be a contender again. Absolutely. But they got to make a decision about Marshall long term. I don't think Roman Torres is back. They've got to decide if Roldan is the guy to replace Alonso starting next year, soon, splitting time next year. You've got to make decisions on those three because I think you could potentially get another year out of this group. But you got to position to where that's not the closing of the window because you have talent like Rui Diaz, like Roldan. Ladero's still got a few more years in him. You've got guys that are not going anywhere just yet, but some of your key guys are almost done, and you've got to figure out how to manage that without losing everything and having to start from scratch. It's an interesting offseason for Seattle because it's not a rebuild, but significant moves, I think, need to be made, and at least planned to be made if they don't get made in the winter window, potentially summer window, potentially following the 19 season. We'll take a break, come back, more of your thoughts on Seattle, Portland. We'll start to get into Atlanta and NYC as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, November 9th edition. Portland, Seattle madness last night. Portland moves on to the Western Conference Final. They'll face the winner of Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake. They play in the early game on Sunday. Atlanta, NYC in the middle. Columbus, Red Bulls is your nightcap on Sunday. Jim Lepp wanted to talk about bad defending. He said, bad defending on the Portland-headed assist on Rui Diaz's goal. Yeah, it's a bad decision for Blanco, sure. That's a little different than bad defending as a whole, in my book, at least the way I was trying to explain it. I think Blanco made a bad decision. He should have headed it wide rather than back across. Not sure what he was thinking there. I watched it back a few times and don't know if he thought he had somebody behind him. Don't know if he thought he had somebody to his outside and he didn't want to head it there, but he put it in the absolute worst spot. And don't take anything away from Rui Diaz smashing that home, because a lot of players trying to take that out of the air would have put it into the stands and probably hit one of the cars that was being pulled in for the car show. Rui Diaz did not. It was an outstanding finish. John, any other comments on Portland-Seattle?
Yes. Jim Lepp, he says he certainly enjoyed the chaos last night as a neutral. I'm real sure I don't want to see any of that Sunday evening up close and live. Real good with a subdued 2-1 result. Random thought from Thomas. Yep, buckle up. Random thought from Thomas Jewin. He says, with no context at all, it would be terrible to have away goals still be a tiebreaker after extra time. It would penalize the higher seed by giving the lower seed an extra 30 minutes to score away goals. Hashtag Friday figurines.
Went down all kinds of rabbit holes on this one. So MLS added the away goal tiebreaker ahead of the 2014 season. Away goals in extra time has never been part of it for MLS. They've never used it. It's always been once it goes to extra time, that's it. UEFA Champions League and Europa League and FIFA World Cup qualifying, away goals still count in extra time. So if that had been the case here, Portland would have went on because they had away goals in extra time as the tiebreaker. CONMEBOL and now the CONCACAF Champions League since the 2018 edition don't go to extra time, period. They go straight to penalties. Asia and Africa, if I remember right, Asia does it like CONCACAF or like MLS. Africa does it like UEFA. So you see lots of different ways of doing it. I agree, though, that I don't like away goals during extra time because the way MLS uses it, and this is why I think they were smart not to have it, is the second match is the benefit for having the better regular season record. So you get, if it goes to extra time, you get it in your building. If you give the away goal tiebreaker during extra time, then you're giving the away team an advantage because their goals have more meaning in extra time. So you're taking away that regular season reward. So for MLS in playoff action, it makes no sense for them to use it because it goes against the whole seeding thing. So I think MLS has it right. I don't like away goals being part of it in extra time because if you're in the Champions League, it's kind of the same thing. I believe the better performing team in the group stage gets the second home match. So you're making it more difficult for them if it goes to extra time. That seems to go against the thought process here. So I think MLS has it right in this rule, and I think we saw last night how important it can be.
Drew Ganos says, glad to see Portland win. Could imagine a repeat of ATL versus Seattle for the MLS Cup. Sounders played the ugliest ball.
They didn't last night. They did when Atlanta saw them. And I was right there with everybody going in on them because it was bad soccer. You had seen a lot of bad soccer from Seattle at that point. It hasn't been for a long stretch of the second half of the season. So they were playing that way because they had to. That was the only way they could get any results, Jarrett. I mean, when you've got Brian Schmetzer apologizing to Brad Friedel the week before they come to Atlanta for their approach in the match, and then what we saw in Atlanta, they were struggling. Rui Diaz had just arrived. They had no firepower. Joseph Martinez was scoring more goals than Seattle as a team for a long stretch. It's all been clicking lately, and they don't play that ugly soccer. I haven't seen that in a while from the Sounders.
No, they've been more fun, more positive, less anger-inducing. So that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, less cynical.
Look, they play like yeah. I mean, like, yes, good way to put it. They've been fine lately. Nothing wrong with the way they've been playing. Like, I'm cool with that. Y'all want to do that? That's fine.
Yeah,
but
this is a team that plays good soccer. I mean, Ladero is a guy now who can drive you nuts, and we've seen it for his whole time in the league. But quality of play and approach, it's been dramatically different in the second half of the season.
Rachel says, sad that most of America did not see this game. A Thursday night at 10 Eastern kick at MLS. What are you thinking?
Not MLS's fault, Rachel. Can't blame MLS on this one. This game should have been on Sunday at either it probably would have slotted into the 7 o'clock Eastern slot, 7:30. It could have been in the 5 o'clock slot. Atlanta could have been in a different slot. Things could have moved around. It was supposed to be Sunday. Seattle had a car show. They moved it up. That's what MLS was thinking. It's not MLS's fault. It's Seattle's fault. And the part where it's MLS's fault is once Seattle could not fulfill their hosting duties for the Sunday national TV window, which would have been better ratings for sure, should have flipped it. Seattle should have forfeited their right to host the second leg. Doesn't matter. It's not anything to get on a soapbox about and yell about all day, but I don't like the way it was handled. It will affect the ratings. I think we are a little biased on the East Coast as well. This was prime time on the West Coast, so I don't think it hurt the ratings out west. I think they were probably pretty great in both Seattle and Portland and along the West Coast. They could have been bigger nationally if it had been a more comfortable time on the East Coast. But that's down to a car show, and that's down to Seattle not being able to control the bookings at CenturyLink Field.
And I loved how the Portland fans, they changed it from welcome to your nightmare to welcome to the car show for their.
Yeah, that was good. But the dude, where's your car show? Tifo. One, just doing Tifo on the road is pretty cool from the Portland fans, but then the dude, where's your car show is kind of awesome.
And on that note, we are officially caught up on Cascadia after dark.
It was a wild one. There will be plenty of things that come out of it. I didn't see Seattle comments after the match. Probably not much. I mean, that's the type of game that'll really break you for a while. It's a tough way to go out. Schmetzer will have a lot of work to do as he gets the group together to close everything out, and they'll have a few training sessions after the season that can kind of help reduce the sting a little bit. But tough way for a team that's been to the final back-to-back years and won one of them. Tough way for them to go out on penalties at home against Portland in a roller coaster of a match. We're going to take a break, come back, start to look ahead to Sunday. You have two other matches that both have everything to play for at this point, with Kansas City hosting Real Salt Lake, Red Bulls hosting Columbus. We'll talk about them in the next segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here. November 9th edition of the show. Getting ready for leg 2 of the conference semifinals, all but Cascadia, on Sunday. We'll get into Atlanta and New York in hour number 2. Let's talk the first one on Sunday first, Jarrett. Sporting Kansas City, 1-1, going back to Children's Mercy Park against Real Salt Lake. I feel like Sporting Kansas City is in control of this, especially with Albert Rusnak out for RSL. What is your confidence level in Sporting Kansas City taking care of business here?
Like 65, 70%. It's there. It's solid. But if RSL punches them in the mouth early in the game, then of course it drops. But RSL took it to an LAFC team. And I know we spent the entire season talking about how LAFC had struggled against playoff teams. And Sporting Kansas City ain't the same animal for RSL to deal with. But I think if they're fully buying in to everything Petke says and wants to do, I can't go 100% there just because I think it's totally possible that RSL just gets weird and, is able to at least try and cause some problems. But, we'll see. But I'm about 65, 70% for Sporting Kansas City right now.
I'm probably a little bit higher than that, but you make a good point. RSL basically has nothing to worry about here. They weren't supposed to be in the postseason, period. They get there thanks to the LA Galaxy finding the banana peel and slipping and falling. Then they find a way through the knockout round, which, again, they weren't supposed to be able to do. They did. Now they're here, and it's even. They did give up the away goal, John, but it's even going to Kansas City. What's your confidence level at in terms of Sporting Kansas City doing what they should do and winning the series?
Okay, so if Jarrett says he's 65 or 70, what does that make them, like a C- to you, Jarrett?
No.
It's not
like
by
a grade.
No, if I say by grade, John's right. But no, I'm confident. It's just, here's the thing about this. In the first round, Atlanta was the only team to win on the road in the first leg. Man, there's a legitimate chance that all 4 of these games could go to extra time. Like, it sets up for that very, very to happen incredibly reasonably. I would be happy if we find out, Atlanta was the only team to win on the road in the first round. What happened in the second? Atlanta was the only team to avoid extra time. That would help my heart and my well-being a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't think you think of it as a grade. It doesn't mean they got 65 on the test and they're failing. Somebody's winning. There's a winner and a loser. There's no grade here. It's pass-fail. And I think RSL has an opportunity here to go for it. Because if RSL goes to Kansas City and loses 3-0, would you be surprised?
No.
Exactly. So there's no pressure here. I think there's zero pressure on RSL. That can be dangerous. That can be very, very dangerous. Corey Baird, Rookie of the Year, Damir Kreilach, I think, can drop into the hole behind him. You're going to need Nick Raimondo to have a big performance and bounce back from a mistake in leg one. You're going to need Beckerman to turn back the years. You're going to need a back line. Justin Glad probably stepping in for Silva. You're going to need him to bounce back. There's questions, and a lot of them, about RSL. That's why they're the number 6 seed coming in.
Is it wrong that I want this to go to penalties so that we get a penalty shootout involving Nick Raimondo and Tim Malia? Because that'd be a lot of fun for somebody who has no emotional investment in that.
That's pretty good stuff. I don't think it does. I think Kansas City wins 2-1, 3-1. I think they get through.
Yeah.
I think they're just the better team here. But RSL can come out of the locker room to start the first half and just absolutely go for it and see what they can find. I don't think they can sit back and defend and try to make it tight. RSL has to score a goal somewhere because they gave up the away goal. So they have to find something in it. Go for it all guns blazing to open the first half and then settle in. And then if you're still chasing it, do the same to open the second half and just keep going and just see what happens. You get to roll the dice. You don't know how they're going to come up. Columbus and Red Bull, on the other hand, is a little bit different situation all the way around. Red Bull, best MLS regular season of all time. We know firsthand how good they are. If there's a team that has been their kryptonite, that's given them problems all season long, it has been the Columbus Crew. They didn't beat Columbus this season. Draw in Columbus, win at Red Bull Arena for the Crew, win in Columbus in the postseason. What is your confidence level, Jarrett, in the Red Bulls turning this around and advancing to the conference final?
Man, look, that's for Red Bulls. It's more like 35%. If I got to, put it on a percentage scale.
Wow, that low.
Yeah, honestly, it's the pressure's on them. They're going to have to take the initiative in this game. I think this sets up really nicely for Columbus. I don't think Columbus could have asked for a better situation unless they had gotten one more goal in that first home leg. It sets up very nicely, and I genuinely wonder if they're in Red Bull's head. If they're living rent-free up there. As I say that, Red Bulls could come out and win this game 2-3-1 and problem solve. They're going through. And that's entirely possible. But this sets up about as well as I could have asked for if I'm a Columbus Crew fan.
It does. You get that first leg win. You have controlled the series all season long. I think Red Bull does have a lot to prove here. I don't know if I would put them as the underdog going into it, but there are questions about how the Red Bulls handle Columbus and Greg Berhalter. It's not Jesse Marsch on the touchline with the experience that he had. It's Chris Armas, who doesn't have a full year of experience yet. It didn't go well for him last time these teams faced off at Red Bull Arena. I'm sure he learned from that. John, what about you? What are you looking at going into the second leg with Red Bull and Columbus?
I've got to go with Columbus here. I think that Columbus is going to surrender possession and just sit there and say, okay, here, possess the ball. And I just think that Columbus is the boogeyman for Red Bulls. And I see Berhalter coming up with a plan to continue to frustrate them. If it's just send it deep, force possession, and force them to pass it around to try to figure something out. I've got to go with Columbus here. I really do.
I think both of y'all are discounting the Red Bulls far too much. I don't know if they win this. And this is the biggest question mark going into the second leg coming out of last weekend for me. Because of the situation, because of the manager, because of tactically what this does to a team that, let's be honest, the Red Bulls don't really have a plan B. Plan A has been outstanding. They press, they cause mistakes, they transition quickly. That's what they do. It's harder to press in a 180-minute series when you give up the first goal and you're coming into the final 90 trailing. Because Columbus doesn't have to control possession here. Not to start.
Nope.
And against a New York team that has struggled to get Kaku going here in the second half. I mean, coming into the match against Atlanta, Kaku hadn't had an assist in a couple of months. He hasn't done much since, if anything. You have to have somebody carry the play for the Red Bulls here, and not through a press and not through just causing a turnover. You might get that, and you might get your goal, and that's a different conversation. I think Columbus is going to be smarter than that. I think Columbus is going to minimize risk, minimize opportunities where they could turn it over in dangerous spots, and they're going to force the Red Bulls to carry the play here and create their own chances. That's a tough spot for New York. I don't know if New York can flip their head around to that way of thinking. And that's the biggest question in leg 2 of any series for me.
It's not out of a disrespect for Red Bulls. I mean, they had the best regular season of all time that we've seen. I mean, I think for me, it's a matter of with Columbus and Red Bulls, it's kind of been Red Bulls can't get over that hill in the same way that Atlanta has struggled to get over that hill with Red Bulls. You know, you've kind of got this triangle of 3 of the 4 teams left. You kind of have this triangle of nonsense and chaos, and I think that still has to be considered here. And look, you want to talk about MLS narratives trains wherever you are. Don't know where you are. Don't know how you're doing, buddy. But if Red Bulls doesn't win this, the Red Bulls playoff narrative, it's not going away for a very, very long time.
Metro playoff fever. It's been there since the Metro Stars days. This is a club that hasn't been back to a final since 2008. When they were a big underdog, they got there. They came up short to Columbus. They haven't been there since, even though they've won now 3 supporter shields. It's gonna be fascinating at Red Bull Arena. I'm just curious to see what Red Bulls can do when the script is flipped, and this is probably going to make every Georgia Tech fan mad, but the Red Bulls are like Georgia Tech in that they can't fall behind. They can't play from behind. They have to control the game. The Red Bulls control it with their press. They need an early goal to make a team open up so the press becomes even more effective. When the other team doesn't have to open up, it's harder for the Red Bulls to have any control of the match. That's what we're looking at here. Can the Red Bulls do something they have struggled to do most of the season? They haven't been in this situation very often. Obviously, you have 71 points in the season. You're not playing from behind very much. But now they have to. What can they do about it? We'll see Sunday night after Atlanta and NYC, and that's what we're going to talk about in hour number 2. We'll start to dig into some of the comments coming out of New York. We will try to catch up with Doug Robertson of the AJC, depending on his schedule at the training ground. And we'll get you ready for Atlanta United and the Pigeons from the Bronx flying down south. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, November 9th. A couple days away from Atlanta United, New York City, Leg 2, Eastern Conference semifinals at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Kickoff after 5:30. Broadcast time is 5:30 on ESPN. For us on 92.9 The Game, we'll start at about 5:20-ish. We'll be coming in hot from the Atlanta Falcons post-game show. We will have an extended full-time report for you after the final whistle, whenever that is, as we lead you into Atlanta Hawks coverage from the West Coast as the Hawks face the Lakers. It is, I believe, we're going with a big Sunday, triple header of Atlanta sports, and Atlanta
big
United
Sunday.
is, yeah, pretty much. We didn't have the monster truck guy doing it. Sunday. That hurt.
Big Sunday.
I didn't have that. But
are super value tickets still just $10?
No, they are not. There are no super value tickets for this one, sir. This is going to be a packed house.
Sea Giant promo.
Yes, SeatGiant.com. Use the code SDH if you're trying to get in the building, if you don't have tickets already. And if you don't, what are you doing? Come on. You know you have to get on top of these things early. All right. Comments yesterday out of New York. At least they were published yesterday. The headline was interesting, and I think for all of us who have written and dealt with editors and headlines, a lot of times writers don't call their own shot on the headline. Just saying. The headline for the article at MLSsoccer.com from Dylan Butler out of New York, the headline was, Dome Tarrant, New York City FC will not put up with Atlanta United diving. Wow, okay. That's a bold start to this. You read through the article, and it goes through quite a few paragraphs, lots of quotes, lots of comments. There's nothing about that. Interesting. The final quote is the only thing that gets there. And I don't have a problem with what Dome Tarrant said at all. He said, I say to my players, I want to say to Tata Martino, we will not throw the ball out because we have a referee. When it's a foul and one player is diving, the player from Atlanta, New York City, decides not to throw the ball outside. If not, you can waste 15 minutes, and it's a final. That's fine. That's how it should be. If the ref doesn't call the foul and there's a player on the ground, yeah, you play on. Make the referee stop the play. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. What he said there is nothing at all with the headline. So, don't let that headline start getting people bent out of shape. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a terrible headline for an article that talks about New York's approach coming into this. It's a terrible headline in the context of the way the first game played out as well. I don't know. Just trying to manufacture drama, so have at it. But here's your other quotes that I thought were interesting from it. Anton Tennerholm said, this game is different and special because we're going after this game, and we've got nothing to lose. We know we are 1-0 down, and they have to defend a 1-0 lead. I think we have to turn it around and go after and play like we have nothing to lose. If the score is going to be tied at the end of the game, they're going to be scared. I'm not necessarily going to argue with Anton Tinnerholm about that. If Atlanta concedes and it's 1-1 at the end and you're going to extra time, I think both teams are going to be scared, to be honest, because neither one has dealt with that in any kind of meaningful way. You know, New York hasn't been to MLS Cup before. Atlanta United hasn't been in that situation going into extra time in an MLS Cup playoff match. So, yeah, I think both teams are going to be scared. That's why the first goal is very important. But if New York gets that goal, and depending on where they get it, they could have momentum. Say they get it late in the second half to send it to extra time. They'll have all the momentum. Atlanta will have to bounce back quickly. New York gets it early and the game plays out to a 1-1. Probably a different mentality going into extra time. Alexander Callens said this. Not only do I think this, but my teammates also think that if we score the first goal, everything will change for the team. We'll be a lot calmer, and the other team will have a lot of pressure. They're obviously playing at home in front of a lot of their fans, so if we are able to score first, it will make us a lot calmer for the rest of the game. 150%. Because if they get that goal and they pull it level on away goals, you're basically starting from scratch right there. But with NYC holding the momentum. So, yeah, first goal is everything here. If there's a first goal. I mean, if it's scoreless, Atlanta goes through. But if New York gets the first goal, game on, everything to play for. If Atlanta gets the first goal, that could crush New York, and they might not have the mental toughness to bounce back. I think that's imperative for Atlanta to get that first goal and to get it as early as possible to not have that pressure build up that Callens and Tinnerholm talk about, to not start to feel it a bit. And for the fans as well, because the players individually, some of them have been through this. As a group, they haven't been in this situation before. Fans haven't been in this situation before either. And it is very important for the fans to do their best to convey that they are confident and that they are not worried about the situation. When a large venue goes silent in this situation because of nerves, because of fear, because of whatever, that gives the opposition strength, and it can cause questions in your team where they're like, what's going on? Why is it so quiet? It can affect that. So, the fans don't decide the match, but I think in this one, the 17s can absolutely have a hand in it. And the more that they can portray what we always see out of the 17s in these moments, the loud, raucous atmosphere, intimidating to the point that you see the opposition players looking around like, oh my God, where are we? What is going on? They can have an impact on this match. And I think it's going to be very important to continue to try to push that onto the team and try to give that to this team who will need it at points. You've got guys who are coming back from injury. You've got guys who are going to be overawed by the occasion at times. So whatever can be done from the fan base to be loud, be rowdy, be proud, all those things, it will have an impact on this match. But these quotes, Jarrett, we saw the headline, and I think I shared it with you guys when I immediately saw the headline. It was just like, oh, my God, here we go. All about narrative right now. The article doesn't really go down that road at all. I mean, the article's 100% fair. I thought all the quotes were 100% fair. What do you think the mentality is from the New York side coming in here to Atlanta, 1 goal down?
I think for New York, it's a matter of we've got to come out and we've got to take the game. I think they can look at what Toronto did to Atlanta, and it's not the same situation. This is your Super Bowl, but Toronto literally had nothing to play for in that game. And there was more of that kind of budding rivalry than with Atlanta and New York at this point. But they can try and rock Atlanta back on their heels with an early goal, but I think they've also got to. It's one of those things where I think you have to shift the pressure off of your own shoulders if you can. I guess what New York's going to do. They're going to try and shift that pressure because going into New York, we kept hearing the pressure's on New York to get the job done at home because, and I think it was, in that You were playing in that bandbox. It's where you've only lost one time all year. That's where you host a game, and your job is to build a comfortable advantage, knowing that when you go out on the road, you've won, I think, 4 games with Dome Tarrant on the road as your manager. So you needed to build a comfortable lead to stave off whatever you had to deal with on the road. Well, that didn't happen. So you need to make sure that emotionally and mentally all that load is on Atlanta.
I don't even think you won 4 games on the road with Dome Tarrant. You won 4 games all year with NYCFC on the road. They were 4-9-4 on the road in 2018. Since Dome Tarrant took over after Atlanta's 1-1 draw at Yankee Stadium, it hasn't been good. NYC won in Orlando. It does count. A little bit, I guess. They won in Toronto in August, which does count. Toronto had a red card in that one, too. And that's it. And they've got to win here. That's the thing it comes down to. That 4-9-4, the 9 in the second 4 do nothing for you in this match. You have to come out of here with a win to even send it to extra time. 1-0 win, you go to extra time. 2-1 win for New York City, you go through on away goals tiebreaker. Anything more than that, you go through on away goals. Or you go through by just winning the tie. So, John, NYC, what do you think their approach is to start this?
I think it's pull the governor out of the golf cart, slam it into 5th gear, and try to get that goal as early as humanly possible to put the pressure on. Why what?
Why go all out in the first 5 minutes when it's a 90-minute game and you're only one goal down?
I think you want to make that statement. You want to put it on the board. I know it's all about surviving and looking at the first 20 minutes or so, but I think they come out guns blazing and try to get that goal on the board to make sure that Atlanta United is thinking and over processing as quickly as possible. That's just what I'm thinking.
I disagree. I think if they do that, it plays into Atlanta's hands. If it was 2-0, if it was 3-0, yeah, you got to go get one early. You got 90 minutes here, and you only need 1 to send it to extra time. You don't want to lose this if you're New York City in the first 10, 15 minutes. You can't win the series in the first 10, 15 minutes, but you can lose it if you're NYC. I don't know if they change anything dramatically in terms of approach early on. I think they're more open with their lineup. I would be surprised if everyone's healthy if it's not Medina, Morales, Tajori, Shradi behind Villa and in front of Herrera Ring with Matarrita playing left back. I'd be surprised if it's Ben Sweat and Ronald Matarrita again to give you that either-or on the left side. I think you have to open up some. But I don't think approach you open up a ton. It goes back to your team personality. I don't know if NYC is completely comfortable playing that wide open and that on the front foot. They want to control possession, and they want to move the ball around and create their chances that way. They want to be able to build up attacks and build up out of the back, but also build up in a way that gives Tinnerholm and Matarrita chances to push forward. Where NYC, I think, will be aggressive is where they're able to generate possession, move the ball into the other half along with all of their players, and get Tinnerholm and Matarrita both pushed up high with Ring and Herrera sitting to protect Callens and Chanot. When it turns into that 2-3-5 type of look that NYC wants to get to. And if you want to look at a blueprint for how NYC wants to play, it's Manchester City. And that's what Manchester City does when they're able to control possession. I mean, last week, watching that before we go to Yankee Stadium, it was kind of a masterclass on what NYC wants to be. They're not there yet. And Dome Tarrant has said that at different points. You know, he has a way that he wants to play. He didn't get a preseason with the team, and he said, look, I might not have the players to play the way I want to play right now. I might have the players that are perfectly suited to play a different way. But that's the that's the style that he wants to get to. He wants to be able to flood the attacking half with players because it does two things. I mean, you have passes all the time. You have possession. You control the game. You're not going to give up as many goals if you're playing in the other team's 18. It also allows you to immediately win the ball back, and you don't have to press like New York does. New York, the press is their attack because they're not able to build up play. NYC builds up play, gets players in positions to where if they turn it over, you have players all around the ball, and they win it back quickly. It's much more Barcelona and how Barcelona would frequently win the ball back quickly, and people talked about a press from Barcelona, but it wasn't really that. What NYC wants to do and what they do when they're playing well is more of Barcelona than Borussia Dortmund, Hoffenheim, German pressing. It's not the same thing. So I think NYC will try to do that, and that might give the approach or the impression that they're going for it and committing numbers forward and really trying to win this early. That's just how they play. What that does on a big field like Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and what it's harder to do at Yankee Stadium, is you push your outside backs forward. You get them even cutting inside rather than overlapping the wingers. You get Tennerholm, who can score goals. You get Matarrita, who can score goals into the final third. Well, they're not defending then, are they? And then there is space out wide. Then you think back to Atlanta and the way that Atlanta can attack that, and you think to that long diagonal from Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, from Michael Parkhurst, from Jeff Lorenowitz, from Brad Gazan, and you try to open up the space wide. That's where Miguel Almiron making diagonal runs to the outside can be really important here in getting on the ball and stretching New York City out. You want to get Callens and Chanot defending out wider than the corner of their 18. They're not comfortable there. The tactical stuff, I think you didn't get as much of that at Yankee Stadium because of the field size and just because it was a fight. It was a physical kind of battle. You're going to see more tactics on display at Mercedes-Benz because both teams are going to have the space to implement them. If NYC is able to control the play in Atlanta's defensive half, I don't think Atlanta can get out of there with a clean sheet if they're defending for long, long stretches. But if NYC does that and they turn the ball over, they're in trouble because they're exposed, and they're exposed to Atlanta's speed going forward. And Atlanta playing on the counter and Atlanta playing in that way is very dangerous for any team in the league to deal with. So tactically, this is going to be a chess match. And it's going to be which team can take more control of this match and which team can put their foot down on it for more often of the match. I don't think it's going to be easy, and I don't think it's going to be decided in the first 15, 20 minutes at all. I think we're in for a battle for 90. Maybe.
What fascinates me about this, in that same boat, is if New York starts pushing up the field, that's fine. They're going to have to at some points, especially as the match goes on. They're going to have to commit more resources because you can look at it and say, okay, well, it's the 30th minute. We're still down. That's fine. We have another 60 minutes to go here as the clock ticks on. As they pour forward more and more, if they don't get the goal, the longer they go without the goal, the more I start to wonder if they start to, I think you referred to it last night as punching themselves out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it looked like on last Sunday, actually. It looked like they kind of ran out of gas there. You got to remember, this is a team that went through losing Patrick Vieira, who I think everyone really enjoyed working for and playing for. Somebody completely different comes in. Very different approach. Dome Tarrant has been to the heights of the world's game. He has been and seen the best of the absolute best. This is a culture shock for him. So how has he been able to transmit that to his players? Has he been like Patrick Vieira was? I think Vieira, in his first, major managerial appointment, was probably coming at it more from a player perspective. Dome Tarrant, not after 10 years with Pep Guardiola. I don't think you're coming at it with that approach. So is he relating to the players in a big way? Is he understanding them? Is he managing their emotions well? That's a question, because NYC has looked different under Tarrant than they have under Vieira. I've felt like that they're building to something, and I think we've seen glimpses of it. But I'm kind of with Tarrant, where he said that they might not have the players to do exactly what he wants to do right now. I thought this would pay off next year. I didn't think they'd finish the way they did against Philadelphia. I thought they were a little more damaged at that point. You saw glimpses of that damage, I think, at Yankee Stadium against Atlanta, where it looked like the pressure was getting to them. It looked like they were struggling a little bit as that game went on. They still have the quality, though. But, as you said, Jared, if this gets to 75th minute, 70th minute, and it's still scoreless, or Atlanta was able to get a goal, does NYC have that fight in them at that point? I'm not convinced they do. I go back to some of the comments last week about how important it was to win at home because they know their road form. That would be a concern if I was Dome Tarrant. I hear some of the comments coming into this match. It sounds a little like they're trying to talk themselves into it. Maybe they are. If Atlanta can make NYC continue to question themselves, I think Atlanta United will be just fine on Sunday. If you allow NYC to find some confidence in this match early, then it's going to be a fight. I still think Atlanta can come out on top of that. I think they are the better team here. But David Villa, Maxi Morales, Ismael Tajori-Shradi, three guys who are game changers. I think Ronald Matarrita is borderline in that category too. Yangel Herrera is a guy who can control a match. Tajori-Shradi can score from anywhere inside 25 yards. Maxi Morales can create something out of nothing. David Villa is David Villa. We know what he is. Ronald Matarrita is that game-changing left back who can get forward and score goals. You can be in control of the match, and one of those guys can kill you because of their quality. Atlanta United has players who can do that too. Atlanta's the favorite. They should come in and take care of business. You cannot discount a team with the quality of NYCFC, no matter what their situation is. We're going to take a break, come back, get into some of your questions about Atlanta and New York City on Sunday, 5:30-ish kickoff. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Umpolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, November 9th, 2 days away from Atlanta United and New York City Football Club at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. What kind of questions do we have out there from the peeps, John?
Well, we'll probably get into one involving a player. Do you want to get into it now and tease it and talk to Doug about it later, or do you want to get into other things?
Well, I don't think Doug checked him out, so I think we can just go ahead and say that Doug Robertson tweeted out, Jeff Larinowitz is not certain to play for Atlanta on Sunday. Small muscular issue, status to be decided. Unless Doug is doubling as an athletic trainer, I don't know if he has anything more than that to share. Although I'm not putting it past Doug. Doug is a very talented guy. Concerned thoughts from Five Stripes fan about that. Concerned, yeah, just because Jeff Larinowitz is an important part of this team, and I think you see the value that Tata Martino places in him and the way he's deployed him here lately. But you have a situation at home where you can move Franco Escobar inside, you can play Julian Gressel as the right wing back, and you can make decisions based off health as to what you do in the midfield. If it's Remedi and Nagbe, which you would assume, then you have the 10 and you have the second forward spot that you have to figure out. Miguel Almiron can play either one. Where are you more comfortable with him at his stage of recovery? Is it better to play him as the second forward and do something different at the number 10, like an Ezequiel Barco, like a Kevin Kratz? Kratz could play deeper. Nagbe could play as a 10. You've got some flexibility there. But Larinowitz's absence, I think it just means Escobar slides inside, Gressel becomes your right wing back, and you go from there. I think that's the way you'd have to play it. It's definitely a concern. Jeff Larinowitz, barring a bad pass in Toronto, has been a very good fit in this 3-5-2, being able to play out of the back. You'd like to have his passing ability there. I think Escobar doesn't hurt you a ton in that way. And at this situation at home, I think it's easier for them to do that than it would have been if the second leg was at Yankee Stadium and Larinowitz couldn't go. That would have been more concerning to me. What else do we have on the Twitters?
Five Stripe fan with a follow-up, or a precursor. Georgia Tech Red Bulls is a perfect analogy, and Tech fans know that all too well. If that upsets them, then they've got their head in the sand. Hashtag Five Stripe Friday at Soccer Down Here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to talk about Georgia Tech's high school offense. I'm trying to talk about they have to get in front. I mean, that's just how they play. Red Bulls have to get in front. That's the way they play.
If Tech fans want to be happy this weekend, they've got Miami come to town. Paul Johnson's going to try and get Mark Richt fired.
Yeah, it's looking that way. It's not good. We'll see how the Yellow Jackets do on Saturday night. Maybe they kickstart a big weekend for Atlanta sports. Who knows?
Drew Gano says, unfortunately, this year Atlanta United has been good at allowing teams to gain confidence. Hashtag early goals at Soccer Down Here.
That's a good point. Yeah. They've also been good at coming back, which has helped, but you'd like to not be in that situation. You'd like to go ahead and put this thing away and be able to breathe. It's the playoffs. It's not easy to do. Doesn't always happen that way. You have to be ready to go 120 here. You have to be mentally ready to go 120 because you don't want to be shocked by it if it comes up. And we'll get into a couple more questions in the final segment. We're going to get Doug Robertson on here in just a second as he's finished up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. The last thing I wanted to touch on Portland and Seattle that we have not yet was the craziness at the end. We talked about the away goals and extra time rule and all that. Final whistle in extra time. You saw Diego Valeri fall to his knees, hands in the air, celebrating. You saw Sebastian Blanco celebrating. They thought it was over. They didn't know they had to go to penalties, and they bounced back and converted. I mean, that's full credit to those guys. But what in the world happened there in the conversations on the touchline? Did the team know? Did they talk about it? Did Savarese know? Did they get confused? That was crazy, and I'm surprised that it didn't kind of come back to bite Portland.
And that was what folks were talking about a little earlier on with the rules changes and things like that, where people get confused.
No. There were no rule changes. That's the thing here. There are differences in the way that it's handled in different parts of the country. Now, the question was, how is it handled in MLS? And it's been that way since 2014. It's been that way ever since Diego Valeri's been in the league, since Sebastian Blanco's been in the league. There was no confusion there. The question is, did Savarese know? This is his first year in MLS. Did those players know? It's not about the rules changing to catch them by surprise. It's just, did they know the situation? CONMEBOL, they wouldn't have went to extra time. If it had been Copa Libertadores or Copa Sudamericana, they wouldn't have went to extra time. They would have just went straight to penalties. So every place does it differently. I've seen some people, as people generally try to do, throw shade at MLS because, this is so MLS, this is so stupid. There's 3 different ways that it's handled, and Europe, MLS, and South America handle it 3 different ways. So, just saying. I think the MLS way actually makes the most sense for the playoffs because of that home field advantage. I think it ensures that there is home field advantage.
To be fair, I think it can be MLS as hell, not to say that it's dumb, but of course that happened in MLS where somebody may or may not have known the score or known the situation or known what was going on. It's not an indictment on the league. It's not an indictment on any individual player. It's just kind of kooky, and it just fit with how weird that game was, and it was beautiful.
If it is an indictment on the league, you've got an agenda, first off. You can absolutely question Valeri and Blanco for not knowing the situation. You should. I have questions. Did they play differently? Did they play differently in extra time, thinking that they were good where the score was once it was at 4-4 aggregate? Did they play differently thinking that? If they did, that's a problem. It didn't hurt them. They got through. But that's a huge problem. So, I don't know. You have to ask Valeri, you have to ask Blanco. We'll see if any quotes get brought out of that. I'd love to know Savarese because they cut to him, and I couldn't tell if he was confused by his players not understanding the situation or if he was confused by the situation itself. Really weird one. So just added to the craziness of that match, and no, it's not an MLS is stupid with stupid rules kind of situation. Some people will always try to twist that. Don't let them. I did see somebody who is a college assistant coach, I think a high school and college assistant coach possibly, make a very snide comment to somebody late last night about, they said it was the best game that they've seen or something like that. And somebody said, it's sad that the best game you would have ever seen would have been in the MLS. Shut up with that nonsense, people. Just enjoy soccer for what it is. It's great in so many different parts of the world and in so many different leagues, and there are great things about different leagues. If you don't enjoy it, don't watch it. Don't be a snob. Enjoy that drama for what it was, because you could have taken that drama, that crowd, that madness, dropped it into the Copa Libertadores, dropped it into the Champions League, dropped it into a European league, and it would have held up because it was crazy and it was wild and the emotion was great, and that's what this game is. So don't be a soccer snob. Let's take a break. Let's get Doug Robertson on the line. Let's talk Atlanta and New York and get an update from the training ground from Doug. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Atlanta, New York City, Sunday. Second leg of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Atlanta with a 1-0 lead, 90 more minutes separate them from the Eastern Conference Finals. Doug Robertson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution joins us now, straight from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Doug, how are you?
I am fine. I am dry, unlike Atlanta United's players. I didn't even want to write inside watching them having to work out outside. It's so nasty.
Weather is not pleasant at the moment. It's a good thing that Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a roof in case it's needed in these types of situations. We'll see how the weather is on Sunday. We could have an open roof type of match. Could be a little chilly. We'll see what happens. But saw your tweet about Jeff Larenowitz. Is that the big news coming out of the training ground this morning?
Yeah, that's the big Atlanta United-related news, that he is not as certain to play. Small muscle injury or muscle issue, but Martino couldn't be more specific about it. It generally seems like he doesn't know what it is, just knows that he has one. And that they're going to consider his status today and Saturday before Sunday's kickoff.
All right, go ahead, John.
So other than them being wet, and apparently profoundly so, any other takeaways from catching up with players / coaches after they stopped being wet, getting ready for leg number 2?
They like the intensity again this week, similar to what they had last week. Everyone's talking about they've got to come out and be as tough as they were at Yankee Stadium. I'm going to write a little bit more about this for Sunday's newspaper, or you can find it on Twitter at Doug Robertson AJC, just about how maybe losing to Toronto and losing the Supporters Shield may be a lesson, and this is my words, not theirs, that can carry them to the MLS Cup. Just about, you can't just show up. You got to show up and you got to be ready and you got to play tough. And it's taken a few games this year for them to kind of learn that lesson, but it looks like it finally kind of took hold.
We've seen the comments. I've seen you tweet them out, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone who did, because for the snideness of it and any pettiness that may or may not have been associated with it. With the Don't Be Torrent comments about we won't deal with Atlanta flopping or Atlanta taking dives. Did Tata have anything to say about that? About the way the game is played, or guys going down easy, this, that, or the other, or the amount of fouls?
No. I asked him about that because it'll be the story in Saturday's paper, I'm hoping, about mind games. What's funny about the whole thing is if Torrent or anyone with NYCFC's communications office has paid attention to Atlanta United this year, Martino hates that stuff. He hates diving. He hates the delayed tactics that other teams have used against Atlanta United. He would rather just play soccer. And so for Torrent to say that was just kind of silly, especially considering some of the antics his players had in the first leg, David Villa in particular. Guzan and Parkhurst kind of brushed him off. Martino, I need to go back and listen to exactly what he said, but he kind of brushed him off too. The whole thing is just really, the lead of my story is probably going to be it wasn't exactly a Jose Mourinho level attempt at a mind game, but NYCFC's Torrent said this about Sunday's game. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I saw the headline. I'm like, wow, okay, that's a bold statement. And the quotes that are in the article, they're really not that strong from Dome Torrent, to be honest. I mean, the biggest one is when it's a foul and one player is diving, the player from Atlanta, New York City decides not to throw the ball outside. If not, you can waste 15
we're gonna
minutes.
keep
It's
playing.
a final. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's completely fine. I think the headline was trying to get something going that maybe wasn't even necessarily said.
It was a bad headline.
Yeah, it just seemed like a reach to try to create a little drama here. I don't think the series needs it. I think you saw a first leg that had lots of drama and lots of intrigue going into the second one. David Villa's actions are part of that. Anton Tinnerholm's actions are part of that. Atlanta United's actions are part of that. How they bounced back and responded to it. I don't think you need any manufactured drama here. These two teams, pretty much every time they've faced off in their history, it's been a match with a little extra to it. You know, even the 3-1 losses last year, the first one was probably the flattest one where Atlanta played poorly at Yankee Stadium. The game at Bobby Dodd had a little bit of an edge to it. Atlanta wanted to show NYC that they were a good team, and they did. Both games this season, regular season, had a lot to it, and the playoff game did too. I think this match is going to be very intense both ways. I'm not expecting to see much diving from either squad.
No, well, I think you might if it's near the end of the game.
I think
last
you'll see
20 minutes.
gamesmanship, which is different than diving.
Well, no, I think you'll see some diving, particularly if NYCFC needs a goal and they're around the penalty box. I think you're going to see players falling as if it's a hurricane-type wind affecting them because they got to get that goal. And, you know, if Atlanta United is behind or tied, it wouldn't surprise me to see it either. But, you know, who knows what will happen.
Go ahead, John.
So other than players channeling their inner Marta, with your note from practice about Lorenowitz, then I guess how would you see the 11 in your mind going up against NYCFC on the weekend?
I think Lorenowitz is going to have to be dragging a leg to not be put on that field by Martino. I think you're going to see him. If you don't see him, I think you'll simply see Nagby drop back and play with beside Ronetti. I think you're going to see the same 3-5-2 formation that you saw at NYCFC. I think they're just going to try to choke the life out of the game, out of the middle of the game, in the middle of the pitch. I'm sorry. So I think you'll see the same guys. If not, I think it'll just be a simple. You'll see Nagby drop back. You'll see Almiron drop back, and you'll see Villalba put into the starting lineup as a striker.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about is we get any updates on Villalba or Almiron and what we could expect from them in terms of how much they could see the field?
They've been training all week. And again, Martino, Villalba did not look good to me at Yankee Stadium. When he came on and didn't chase down that first long ball, just kind of quit, I thought maybe something might have been wrong. I think the coaching staff thought maybe there was something wrong too. Martino said after the game they thought maybe his adductor, the injury he had earlier this year, was affecting him. But Villalba said it wasn't. For those who aren't aware, he came on as a second-half sub at the beginning of the second half and then was taken out before the end of the half, something that you rarely see anywhere in soccer. A guy subbed on and then subbed back off again. But Villalba said it was fine, and there was a moment after the game in the hallway of the locker room where Villalba came walking into the hallway. Martino saw him and went and hugged him for a long time and was saying something to him. I think he was explaining what they thought they saw, and Villalba seemed okay with it. So he's been training all week, so I think you'll see him in the game.
It's going to be an interesting one both ways on how these lineups go. I think NYC has to make some decisions about Ben Sweat, Ronald Matarrita, if they continue with the two of them on the left side to give you that flexibility of going into a 3-5-2. I don't think they have that luxury anymore. Atlanta, will they stick with the 3-5-2? How does it look? Is Tito ready to go? Miguel ready to go? Do they have 90/120 in them? It's going to be lots of questions as we get into this on Sunday. Doug, before we get into predictions, what is your biggest question about the match on Sunday?
Atlanta United's intensity. They were able to do it once. I'm curious if they could do it again. Even Brad Guzan said after the game that really all season in the big games they haven't had it. So I'm curious if they can find it again, because if you don't have a history of doing it once could be an anomaly. Doing it twice would be a good sign. So that's what I'm curious to see, particularly in those first 15 minutes. So I think NYCFC is going to come out. They've already said they're going to come out and they're going to try to get that goal super duper fast. So Atlanta United is going to have to weather a Red Bulls-like storm, and I'm curious to see if they can do it.
All right, let's get into some predictions. Jarrett, let's start with you. Prediction on Sunday, and you can predict it as far out as you want in terms of result, in terms of regulation, extra time, what have you. But let's hear what you think, Jarrett.
Yeah, I don't think we'll need extra time. I think Atlanta wins the game 2-1 and wins the tie 3-1. I think Atlanta goes in, they get an early goal, and they really put New York in a situation where they have to just put the pedal down and rip off the brake entirely. And New York's able to get one back in the middle of the second half or so, but I think New York's just going to burn the entire fuel tank just getting that one. And Atlanta gets a third one late just to bury it off completely. But I think they put New York in a situation where they've got to just go for it, and New York does, but they're not able to get one quick enough, and they just run out of gas.
All right, so regulation win from Jarrett. John, what about you? I think John was having a bit of a connection issue. We'll come back to John. All right, Doug, prediction Sunday.
I think Atlanta United wins it 3-1. I think it's probably going to be 2-1 around the 70th minute. And then as NYCFC continues to throw numbers forward, Atlanta United gets another goal off of a counter or something. That goal they should have probably got at Yankee Stadium, but similar type goal. And wins 3-1 and advances to play Columbus in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Oh, okay. How do you think that one goes?
I think Columbus wins. I think I think Columbus wins. I'm sorry, I keep getting this wrong. Columbus draws 1-1 and advances.
Okay, I could absolutely see that playing out. All right, John, what's your prediction for Atlanta and NYC?
Now that the dog has stopped chasing the cat and was yelled at for doing so and has been summarily disciplined.
Well, there you go.
I would go regulation win as well. I think it will be 2-1, but I think Atlanta United gets out to a 2-0 lead. NYCFC gets one late, and they'll play Columbus as well.
Okay. Man, no respect for the Red Bulls anymore. That's funny. I think this is going to be very tight. I do think Atlanta gets through, and I think they do it in regulation time. But I could see this being a 2-1 Atlanta win that second goal comes pretty late maybe even against a run of play as New York is throwing numbers forward. I think that's where New York has a problem here is they have to throw numbers forward from the jump. I don't think they are as good at doing that as they want to be just yet. They're not controlling possession quite as comfortably as they would like to when they send those numbers forward, and that's going to give Atlanta opportunities on the break. If Miguel is 80 to 90% healthy, he's going to be able to flare out wide when Atlanta goes direct over the top as New York sends numbers forward, and he's going to get Callens and Chanot out in space. And Miguel Almiron or Joseph Martinez, if he's that guy, and we saw Joseph take guys on the dribble a little bit at Yankee Stadium, you get Chanot and Callens defending in space, and they're going to have problems. They're going to either have to commit fouls and pick up cards and potentially red card situations, or they're going to get beat. And I think that's Atlanta's pathway to this. Doug, what do you have coming up between now and Sunday?
Well, I posted a little short on Lorenowitz. I posted a little explainer on Martino, why he spoke English during his halftime interview last week, which caused a bit of a stir on social media. And even Jason Davis spent a little segment talking about it on Monday on his show, which I thought was pretty funny. I'm going to have something on Atlanta United responding to NYCFC's attempt at mind games, and then I'll have something on intensity, which is a topic I keep having to so
it's a big part of this time of year. We saw a lot of intensity last night in Seattle. We saw both teams rise to that occasion. We'll see if Atlanta and New York City can handle the intensity of the second leg on Sunday.
And if I had time, I may write about penalty kicks. Atlanta United has been working on them. Spoke with Russell about that, spoke with Parkhurst about that, and spoke with Guzan about that. If I have the time, I had to get it done.
I think Doug just turned into T-Pain as the weather is really starting to play havoc.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit of auto-tune in there, Doug. We will let you go. We will see you on Sunday, and I won't be having to run and catch a plane, so I'll be on Southern Fried Soccer with you.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Man, I got to catch planes, dude. Sometimes I got to do what I got to do. Thanks, Doug. We'll see you Sunday.
All right, bye, guys.
We're going to take our final break, come back. Any final questions from you guys listening, send them our way on Twitter at @SoccerDownHere. There's also some other news around the soccer world that we'll touch on, probably a little bit of stoppage time as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Final segment, Soccer Down Here, November 9th edition. A couple days away from Atlanta and NYC, Leg 2, Eastern Conference semifinals. We have a few questions. We'll get to those. We'll have a little bit of stoppage time as well. There's some news from around the soccer world we'll touch on. But, John, what do we have on the Twitters?
On the Twitters, Jim Lepp says, we can't overthink it, our advantage. We need the Pigeons to play our game! !
Yeah, you just have to control the match. I mean, at this point, it's just as much control of the series as you can have. You want to make them have to open up and take advantage of it.
Sherbs wants to know if there's going to be a tailgate show on Sunday.
Of course. Tailgate show will be in the 1 o'clock region, and it'll be on twitter.com/soccerdownhere. Not sure exact time yet. There's lots of different things going on my end on Sunday. We will have a special guest in the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. It's going to be pretty cool. So we have to get in a little bit early to get ready for that. We've also got some other stuff. I'll be hopping on some digital stuff with Jillian Sakovitz, who's in town, and Fox Sports Southeast. So it'll be a hectic day. So tailgate show will be in the very early portion of the tailgate. We'll get the tailgate kicked off right.
Shiva says, Toronto's comment after the match stated that NYC played better in the second half because Morales played as a winger more. What do you think?
I don't know if he said they played better because of that, but he talked about specifically Morales having to go out wide because there was no space for him in the middle. Now, an article was just posted about 20 minutes ago at MLSsoccer.com, and it's actually great timing because there's some quotes to follow up on that. They talk about Eric Remedi man-marking Maxi Morales. That might be a stretch. But, yeah, Eric Remedi did his job defensively. Maxi Morales was fouled 6 times. Out of 21 fouls by Atlanta, Morales was fouled 6 times. Only 9 players have been fouled more in a match this season, according to Opta. It's a great stat. These are the quotes from Dome Tarrant after training on Thursday, kind of around this. He said, it's not possible to play because when we try to play, especially Maxi, it's foul and foul and foul and foul. Every single ball is foul after that. But we have a referee. It's the same when they waste the time because that can happen in Atlanta. They talked about Morales roaming out wide, playing more like a winger in the second half to find space. Tarrant said, we had a plan in the first game against Atlanta, but we didn't play well in that way. I say to Maxi, when we have the ball, you have to play wide because normally when they defend man-to-man, you have to go right and create the space. Tarrant expects similar tactics. He says they defend with 8 and attack with 2. When they recover the ball, they play all the time long ball with Martinez and Almiron. We practice this week 2 or 3 different ways to play against them because sometimes they play with a 5-2-2-1, sometimes they play 5-3-2, and we have to be ready to play in different ways. Couple other bits. Alexander Callan said this. At training, we've been very focused. We've been working hard this week to prepare for Atlanta's counterattack. This is all through a translator. We know that Martinez, Almiron, and Villalba are very fast players, but we know that we'll be able to focus with our style and we'll play the way that we need to play. And then Anton Tinnerholm, I think we have to look at ourselves. We as a team have to perform at 100%. Every player has to look at themselves and every player has to reach the top that we can do. If every single player can reach the high level that we can do, then we're going to make it. It's simple like that. Tactical fouls. Yeah, Atlanta will commit them, as they should. They will not let Maxi Morales dictate this game. And I think it's very important that Morales was singled out as the guy who drives NYC forward. Herrera is the guy who drives them defensively and kickstarts things. Morales is the one that can absolutely kill you in the middle of the field. So if Remedi is a big part of fouling him intentionally, well, you're probably going to see Eric Remedi suspended for the first leg of the Eastern Conference Final if you get there. And if that's the trade-off you have to make, that's the trade-off you have to make. That's just how it is. That's what happens this time of year. You can't let Maxi Morales find space. I think Dome Tarrant is being very intelligent about how he is using the media, as he should. I think he is dropping nuggets and trying to plant some seeds in the mind of Mark Geiger about some things for him to watch for specifically. We'll see if Mr. Geiger takes the bait. You never know. We're going to take a little bit of stoppage time now. We've got some different things to get into and probably some more questions as well. John, more questions on the Twitters?
Jim Lepp says, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, the KC Wizards are the one to put the mortgage on, !
Yes, I agree. I think they're the most likely to advance out of the 3 games on Sunday. I would completely agree with that.
Jacob Austin, the best thing in life is being rewarded for making an effort. Shouts out to Cascadia for rewarding me for staying up until near 2 a.m. to watch a soccer game.
Yeah, man, that was an effort. I'll tell you that much. It was an effort getting up this morning. I will also tell you that much. That's what we do. We're crazy.
And John Nason says, we play long ball all the time. Smiley-faced emoji.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Hey, again, you're saying things for effect. And Dome Tarrant has been around this block a few times. So in that game on Sunday, yeah, Atlanta played much more direct than they usually do, for sure. Because there's no way to play on that field at Yankee Stadium. You kind of have to do that. Will they do as much of that at Mercedes-Benz? No, I don't think so. I think they will definitely try to open it up a little bit more and take advantage of the space. But if they're under pressure and they have to play direct, well, you got a 1-goal lead, so you should. It's not a match where the judges are going to decide this one. This is not going to go to a scorecard. This is going to go to a scoreboard, and that's all that matters. However you get there, it's how you get there. So if it's a lot of long ball this time to Joseph and Miguel, and you get out of here with a scoreless draw and advance 1-0, fine by me.
Ron E. Rooks at _R_ATL, double DUBL. Upon hearing the Lorenowitz injury, not great, but also not terribly concerned. Escobar to step up, ! With a winking emoji.
Yeah, I mean, I think Escobar's been great here lately. I think he'll be just fine if he has to move into the middle. But I kind of agree with Doug. If Jeff is able to go, he's going to start in this one. I think he will. And playing in the back is a little bit easier than playing in the midfield, so maybe he'll be able to gut it out that way. We have a little bit of this.
Uh-oh.
Email received from Major League Soccer Communications 2 minutes ago. Major League Soccer today announced the full calendar of off-season roster-building events, highlighted by the 2018 MLS expansion draft on December 11th. FC Cincinnati will select 5 current MLS players to help shape the core of their inaugural roster. Live 2 p.m. during a special expansion draft selection show on MLSsoccer.com. FC Cincinnati will receive additional allocation money as compensation for a reduction in the eligible player pool due to the exempted teams. Now, this is a little different. Since 2014, each round of expansion has involved the 2 incoming clubs selecting players through the eligible player list. Therefore, for the purpose of the expansion draft, LAFC and FC Cincinnati are considered a single round of expansion. While the 2 expansion clubs are selecting players in different years, for competitive consistency, current MLS teams that had players selected by LAFC in the 2017 MLS expansion draft will be exempt from the 2018 MLS expansion draft. However, LAFC players will be eligible for selection by FC Cincinnati. It's a very weird way to set this up, but I get the logic behind it, and we'll have to go back and look at which players are now exempt from the expansion draft, which teams are, and which players would be exempt in turn. Whoever LAFC selected from can't lose anybody to FC Cincinnati. That's essentially where we're at. LAFC has to protect players, though, which is the weird element to it. If you're going to follow the logic all the way through, I would think that they would be exempt as well. But anyway, your timeline is this. Clubs no longer in the playoffs. November 26th is the option exercise deadline. November 30 is the option exercise deadline for non-MLS Cup teams, the teams that are eliminated on the Thursday, the 29th. They got till 1 o'clock the next day to announce their option exercises. Exercisions. I don't know how you say that. Their options. Who's getting picked up, who isn't. December 9th. 9 a.m. MLS Cup will be the night before. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the half-day trade window. We've done this as a tradition now, haven't we, guys, that we've done a live half-day trade window show?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't value our sanity or our soul or our mental well-being or physical well-being, for that matter.
Yeah, this one's going to be a very difficult one if Atlanta's in MLS Cup the night before. But We will have a half-day trade window show for you. It will happen. Sunday morning, December 9th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. I don't think we're doing the full 4 hours. We'll pick a spot in there, probably 11 to 1. The option deadline for MLS Cup participants is at noon on Sunday the 9th during the trade window, which could create some interesting things, maybe. The blackout period begins at 1 o'clock on the 9th. 2 days later, December 11th, the expansion draft, 2 o'clock. 3 o'clock, free agency begins. December 12th, your waiver draft. December 14th, the reentry draft, stage 1. December 20th, reentry draft, stage 2. We'll get into all that, how it works, rules, all the craziness as we go. But immediately after MLS Cup, the 2019 season begins, and FC Cincinnati gets involved in a big way. So there is no chance to breathe. It will continue. And Atlanta United will be on an accelerated schedule with CONCACAF Champions League kicking off in mid-February. Don't know when the CONCACAF Champions League draw is. It'll be in early December. We don't have a date just yet, or at least I haven't seen one publicized. So stay tuned for that. But there you go. There's your updated off-season schedule that starts a few hours after the final kick of the current season.
LAFC picked from Seattle, Sporting, San Jose, Crew, and Toronto FC.
And those teams will not have a player picked here. Interessante.
Tyler Miller, Latif Blessing, Urania Raitala, and Raheem Edwards.
All right.
There's going to be some interesting names available, though, that around the league that, we're the unprotected list. You can't protect everybody. Sometimes there's some interesting names on there. Interested what Cincinnati wants to do, and what are they looking for? That'll be fun.
Absolutely, it's going to be ridiculousness as usual when you get into this. There will be trades that will be shocking. There will be players unprotected that everybody will freak out about, and then they're not picked, and then everybody wonders why they freaked out. There will be guys whose options are not picked up that are very intriguing. The waiver draft, the reentry drafts will be quite interesting. Free agency could be quite interesting. And, I mean, it literally flips. Midnight after MLS Cup, just flip the script and you're in 2019 already. Other bits of news before we finish up today. Rumors out of the LA Galaxy. Sam Stagecall reports that the Galaxy have serious interest in hiring Mexico Director of National Teams Dennis DeClose as their head of soccer operations. Sam's sources also indicated that it's highly unlikely Bruce Arena will be hired in that role. He did interview, though, according to rumors. Inter Miami, already talking big. David Beckham said this to ESPN FC about Antoine Griezmann, who said he wouldn't mind coming to MLS and Miami. Beckham told ESPN FC, "It's always nice to have great players want to come and play for our team. He's such a great player. I'm a fan of his. He's a fan of mine. So maybe one day he will be gracing the building in Miami, and that's what we want." That's a really bold statement from Beckham about a player who's under contract elsewhere,
I'm wondering where the tampering line is
This
placed
is the world
here.
of soccer. Tampering? Come on. There's no tampering.
Adam Silver has no power here, Gandalf.
This is true. It's not the same league, so I mean, you're not going to get into the Ashley Cole. What was it? It wasn't tampering in England. It was tapping up.
Yeah, you're getting tapped up.
Yeah, it's different leagues. It's different parts of the world. I don't think you can get in trouble for tapping up. I don't know FIFA's rules on this. I mean, FIFA has some interesting perspectives on things, so who knows? But David Beckham's making bold statements in Miami already. USL Cup, Louisville City won their second straight title last night, defeating Phoenix. Big crowd in Louisville, packed house at Lynn Stadium. Not their usual venue, but a much better soccer venue. They are building their own stadium, and they will be a class club in the USL Championship going forward. Anything stand out to you about USL Cup, John?
Just the atmosphere in Louisville, first and foremost. and getting into Lou City's run of everything that they went through this season to get to the last game of the year and win the last game of the year. But the two things, packed house in Louisville at Lynn and them getting through, those were the two big things for the last game of the year in USL.
Yeah, great season in USL, and 2019 is getting underway for USL and their clubs. You're starting to see option decisions made and things happening. So stay tuned on everything USL related as you have Birmingham, Memphis both coming online, signing players. Things are starting to kick up in both of those spots. Things are kicking up. Yeah, I mean, New Mexico. I'm talking about our regions specifically first. Okay. I mean, you have a number of clubs coming in next year. You have USL League One kicking off. You have signings going on there as well. You have things happening in the NPSL. And Chattanooga FC has made a very big move as they have been linked to NPSL Pro, which would start with a cup competition in the fall of 19, followed by a full league season professionally in 2020. That would see a lot of expansion, according to sources. Chattanooga FC has added Lamppost, a local investment group, to their ownership group. The official statement is Lamppost, a local investment group, has agreed to acquire an ownership position in Chattanooga Football Club. Bringing in Lamppost is the next step in building a solid foundation for Chattanooga Football Club as we set our sights on the club moving to the next level, said Tim Kelly, chairman of Chattanooga FC. Lamppost and its partners have done so much for Chattanooga, and we are pleased that they are joining our team at this crucial time. Barry Large is a founding partner at Lamppost Group. He'll be joining Chattanooga FC's board of directors. He said Lamppost is all about investing in the future of this great community. Chattanooga Football Club has been a critical part of the ethos of Chattanooga over the past decade. We want to make sure it continues to play this key role, so it's a no-brainer for us to join the ownership group. This is a group that they bought the Chattanooga Lookouts minor league baseball team, another big part of the Chattanooga community. So Chattanooga Football Club's ownership group already includes local entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and businessmen, including Tim Kelly, Sheldon Grizzle, Crew Brock, Daryl Heald, Paul Rustand, Thomas Clark, and Marshall Brock. So now they've added to that, and you're looking ahead to potentially going pro. This is a club that reportedly going into 2018 was looking at a budget of around $750,000. I don't know what NPSL Pro budgets are going to look like. We've seen USL League One budgets be reported at being predicted around $1 to $1.5 million a year. I would expect NPSL Pro to try to be in that ballpark. So that's, even for a Chattanooga FC, which has a large budget in NPSL, they're going to need that extra support. And they're going to need that infusion of cash, and it sounds like they found it.
And now with Lamppost joining Chattanooga FC with the Red Wolves, Chattanooga is going to be an interesting two-team city to see if it can handle both sides and how both sides manage their individual sports and how they see things. For me, it's going to be an interesting test case for soccer, not just in the Southeast, but here in the U.S.
It is, and I hope both clubs just do their thing and find their audience and stop sniping. That's pretty much stopped, I think, since the very beginning of the announcement, which was understandable at that point. I don't think either one is going to improve their standing by trying to knock the other one down. I think it is a little bit of survival of the fittest, but depending on how the leagues shake out and how things move, I think there can be room for both. And I hope that they operate to try to be the best club they can be and not to try to hurt the club across town. We'll see what happens. Greenville's been a great, I think, case study for that.
Yes.
With NPSL and now USL League One coming in, and it's felt much more of, hey, we're doing our thing, you're doing your thing, cool, hope you do well, we're doing our thing over here, cool, we're going to do our thing over here, everybody's good. We'll see if that can happen in Chattanooga. It's a different situation altogether. It'll take some time to get there, but I hope it can, and I hope both teams find success because I think there's value in what USL is doing at League One. I think there's value at what NPSL is doing for sure. I hope NPSL Pro is well thought out, and I hope it fills the need that NPSL teams have when they outgrow just the summer season. I hope it all works. I hope it all makes sense.
Last note from the Twitters from Drew Gano. He says, if memory serves, Atlanta paid off LAFC with TAM. Too bad we couldn't be protected too. # embarrassment of riches. Yeah, there was a trade there. Some allocation money went to LAFC, so a player wasn't picked. So, yeah, that does not carry over here. So, yeah, Atlanta could lose somebody in the expansion draft.
I'd love to know who that player was, theoretically, that LAFC might have been bullseyeing.
Who knows? They might not have been even gotten down to a specific player. It could have just been Atlanta preemptively said, you know what, we don't want to lose anybody. Here's a bag of cash.
They could do it again.
Oh, they could.
They could reach out to Cincinnati and say, hey, here's a bag of TAM or GAM. Go look elsewhere.
Easily. That could easily happen.
So here's a shiny object. It's like, what if I had a bag of cash in this hand and the draft order's over here, and then you're kind of looking over and going, well, what is in that other hand? And you just see this shiny object, this bag of cash, and you're distracted by that instead of what's in the other hand.
Pretty much.
Arthur's going to make him an offer they can't refuse.
I feel like Gilbert Godfrey in Beverly Hills Cop.
Jeez. Couple national team notes before we go. Women's national team won 1-0 in Portugal yesterday, friendly. It was the 500th win in program history. Pretty nuts. Pretty crazy. Full credit to Jill Ellis and the players for notching that moment of history. World Cup qualifying on the women's side, Argentina beat Panama 4-0 in the first leg of the World Cup playoff. It looks really bad for Panama at this point, who were the darlings out of CONCACAF, coming out of nowhere with their 17-year-old goalkeeper. It looks like Argentina is going to claim that final spot in the Women's World Cup next summer. And on the men's side, Grant Wall tweeted this yesterday. Hearing U.S. Soccer is in the final stages of its men's national team coaching search. Is hoping to make an announcement by the end of 2018. I don't even know anymore. I got nothing.
Things we've heard for 500 before, Alex.
Well, no, that is not true. We had not heard that they would be making an announcement before the end of the year. We had heard they would be making an announcement by November 1st.
That, yes.
We're past that one. We have heard the final stages thing. I think we've heard that. I think we heard that one at one point. It's all reporting. U.S. Soccer's not saying anything. So, look, we don't know. Nobody knows. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have a coach for these next two friendlies. It honestly doesn't matter that much. It's just really annoying. Really, really annoying. And if it ends up being a guy like Berhalter out of MLS, which could be the right hire, and he could do great, you could have still made the announcement and still let him finish out the season, and I think everybody would feel a whole lot better about it. You could have made the announcement in the summer when Ernie Stewart was hired, if that was who he was going to hire, and everybody signed off on it. At the end of the Columbus Crew season, Greg Berhalter will be joining the U.S. men's national team program as the manager. Done.
What's the harm in that?
All you had to do. If that's the decision, that's all you had to do. If you're exploring other options, then, hey, it's a different conversation. But if that's what you come down to, I'd love to hear why that did not happen. I think that's it for a show. I think that's it for a week. We will have a tailgate show probably around 1 o'clock from the Gulch with our friends, The Faction, presented by Apolinski and Associates. That'll be on Twitter, @SoccerDownHere. You can watch there. Coverage on TV starts at 5:30 after the end of Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake. It'll be on ESPN, and watch ESPN and the ESPN app. Radio, we will be coming on air at about 5:20 out of the Falcons post-game show. We will have a short pregame. We will have a long full-time report on 92.9 The Game, on the radio.com app, on the Atlanta United app. It's going to be a long day.
Yes.
And it's going to be a stressful day. Probably. Get ready. Buckle up. If you're going to the game, if you're there to make some noise, rest up and be ready to support this team because they will need it at different points in the match.
Maybe consider Marta as you're heading down.
Consider
Should
MARTA
be
as
a
you're
full
heading
house.
down, and consider MARTA and or Uber and or Lyft, depending on what type of beverages you consume at the tailgate and at the stadium. But save some energy for the 90/120 minutes that might have to be played, because this is a game and this is a situation in the season where I can't say it enough. The buzz, the lift, the impact that this crowd can generate at Mercedes-Benz Stadium is unrivaled in Major League Soccer. And you're going to have a team that will have some moments where they'll be on the ropes. You're going to have a team that at some moments they're going to be tired. That lift will be critical. Don't let Atlanta sports history get into your head and concern you to where you sit on your hands. When you start to feel that, get louder. These players, not many of them are from Atlanta. They don't care about what happened to the Braves in the 90s. They don't care about the Falcons in the Super Bowl. They don't care about the Hawks. They care about the Five Stripes and getting through on Sunday. And I know that this fan base does too. Don't let nervousness keep you from making noise, because that noise can have an impact in who comes out of there on Sunday. So just keep that in mind. Be loud. Be intense. Support this team. No stupid chants or throwing things. That's not supporting the team. Get loud. I'm not lecturing to you. I'm not your dad. Just support the team and believe in them, because I think they gave you a great performance and something to believe in on Sunday, and they're going to need your help to get through this Sunday. Atlanta NYC for all the marbles in the Eastern Conference semifinals kicks off just after 5:30 on Sunday. Thanks to everybody for listening all week. Thanks to all the great questions, engagement, Twitter, back and forth, all of it. It's been a fun week on SDH. It's going to be a intense Sunday, and we'll be back on Monday morning at 9 o'clock on an Overreaction Monday to talk about it. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha playoffs, y'all.